Walmart had always been the same to me. Bright lights, linoleum floors so polished they reflected the overhead fluorescence like water. The music was piped in just loud enough to drown out your thoughts, but soft enough not to disrupt your shopping list. Smiling faces, yellow vests, blue signage, and the occasional grumpy cart collector outside. I didn't think anything of it when I took the overnight inventory job at store number 3826 in Buckfield, Illinois. Just a small town with 2 traffic lights and a population that hadn't changed since the 90s. They welcomed me with donuts and a generic training video about store safety and the importance of smiling. The manager, a hollow-eyed woman named Sharon, handed me a badge and said, "Don't worry, nights are quiet. You'll mostly be restocking and scanning barcodes." That first week passed like a dream. The 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift was oddly peaceful. I'd put in my earbuds, have stock shelves, drink too much Monster, and occasionally chat with the other night guy, Randy. He was in his 40s, been there 12 years. Said he liked the silence. "The store talks back at night," he told me one Thursday, eyes not quite meeting mine. "You just gotta listen." I laughed. I thought he was joking. One night around 2:47 a.m., my handheld scanner beeped in error. I was scanning baby formula when the device froze and blinked red. A message popped up, "Item not found. Check sublevel inventory." I blinked. Sublevel? I figured it was a glitch. But Randy, who had shuffled over to ask about a broken shelf in housewares, saw the screen and paled. "Where'd you get that?" he asked. "Just scanned the Similac," I replied. He muttered something about a reset and tried to take the scanner from me. But I was curious now. "What's sublevel inventory?" I asked. He stared at me for a long time. "Forget it, Marcus. It's old code. Stuff the company never deleted. Don't go poking around." But I did. Later that night, on my break, I logged into the store terminal in the back room. I typed sublevel inventory into the internal system. It blinked twice, then a hidden menu opened. Everything was labeled in red. Inventory 666, authorized access only. Below it, a list of items. Doll, porcelain, eyes bleed, status uncontained. Mirror, unmarked, reflects incorrect timeline, status contained. Mannequin, moves when unwatched, status relocated. Jacket, screams when touched, status missing. Each had an item code. Each was tagged with something called Aisle Z. There was no Aisle Z in the store. The next night, I searched for it. I counted every aisle, 1 through 27, then seasonal, then clearance. No Z. But when I passed the employee-only door near the loading bay, my badge buzzed. That door had always been locked. I pushed it open. A long, unlit stairwell wound downward, made of concrete and stinking of mildew and metal. My breath clouded in the cold. The air grew heavier with each step. About halfway down, my flashlight flickered. The silence was absolute, like the walls swallowed sound. At the bottom was a steel door with a keypad. The handle was rusted. I tried the same code we used for the janitor closet, 0405. Click. The door creaked open. Inside was a vast, dim warehouse. Aisles labeled A through Z. Metal shelving units lined up like tombstones. No music. No announcements. Only the hum of unseen machines. A thick, damp smell hung in the air, like rotting flowers and burnt plastic. That's when I saw it. The porcelain doll, item code 66601, sitting on a shelf under a flickering light. Her eyes, painted wide open, were wet. Red streaks rolled down her cheeks, and she smiled. I turned to leave. She was at the end of the aisle now. I ran. I sprinted for the stairs. They weren't there. The stairwell was gone. In its place was another aisle. Aisle Omega. I stumbled forward. Every shelf held something worse than the last. A blood-stained cash register that rang up amounts in Latin. A freezer that hummed with a low growl and was warm to the touch. A shopping cart with bones fused into the wireframe. I heard voices, not around me, but inside me, whispering item codes, calling my name. Marcus, Lane, inventory 666. My scanner blinked. It showed my employee profile. Then it updated. Status, transferred to sublevel. I screamed. I threw the scanner, shattered it against the floor. But when I looked up, I was wearing a different vest. Black, not blue. And the name tag didn't say Marcus. It said Shelver, Unit 14. Across from me in another aisle, I saw Randy. He wasn't blinking. His face was blank. He slid a mannequin into place, then slowly turned to me. He smiled. Told you the store talks. You just needed to listen. They found a resignation note in my locker the next morning. Handwritten. Said I'd taken a job out of state, but I didn't write it. Sharon told the staff I'd quit suddenly. But they didn't hire anyone new. No one ever filled my spot. Randy still works there, quiet as ever. Sometimes on the forums, ex-Walmart employees post strange screenshots, glitches, strange item codes, sub-level inventory. They always get deleted. One night, an overnight manager in Arkansas posted a video. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 3:33 a.m. It showed a black-vested employee stocking a shelf of porcelain dolls. The figure turned toward the camera. It was me, still smiling, still shelving, forever inventory. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let me know in the comment. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. They say nothing ever happens in Willow Creek. It's the kind of town where kids grow up, leave for college, and usually come back 5 years later with a mortgage and a golden retriever. I worked the day shift at the Walmart off Route 4, right past the gas station and just before the dry cleaner. Been there for 3 years. Customer service associate, yellow vest, barcode gun, all smiles. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe, predictable, and I liked that. The store opened at 7 a.m. sharp, and my shift started an hour earlier. Lights would flicker on in stages, humming softly as if the building was waking up with us. The bakery warmed the air with the smell of rising dough, while the soft whir of floor cleaners passed like ghosts in the aisles. The intercom played canned classical music at a volume just low enough that it made you think about things you didn't want to think about. I always liked aisle 13. It was the cleaning supply aisle. Bleach, mops, air fresheners. Something about the citrus smell and organized rows of white bottles gave me peace. But last October, things began to change. The first was Mrs. Linden. She came in every Tuesday, always bought the same things: pet food, toilet paper, lemon pledge. We even joked about it, keeping the house fresh enough to blind God, she'd say. One morning I saw her cart in aisle 13, full, purse sitting in the child seat. Her scarf was draped over the handle like she had just stepped away. But she hadn't. We searched the whole store, even checked the security footage. It showed her walking down aisle 13. But then, nothing. She just never came out the other end. Maybe she left through the back, the manager said, but we all knew that wasn't possible. She didn't drive. She walked with a cane. She would have needed help. Her cart was still there. We never found her. A week later, the intercom glitched. Static crackled through the store, then a soft voice emerged, shaky and familiar. Keeping the house fresh enough to blind God. I froze. It was her. Mrs. Linden. Everyone thought it was someone messing with us. A cruel joke. but no one knew how to access the intercom archives. The manager blamed a bad wiring loop. The next morning, the same voice played again, same line, no more, no less. The store changed after that. Customers started avoiding aisle 13. They said it felt too cold, that the lights flickered more often. Items would fall from the shelves without reason. I noticed the air smelled off, less like bleach, more like rot masked with citrus, like something had died behind the wall and they tried to hide it with air freshener. Then Dan from electronics went missing, said he was going to get a mop for a spill. Never came back. Security footage? Same thing. Walked into aisle 13. Never walked out. 3 days later, the intercom crackled again. "I'll be back in 5, Jenna. Just mopping up." Dan's voice. That's when I stopped sleeping well. Dreams of echoing aisles and fluorescent lights that hummed louder than they should. Dreams where I stood in aisle 13 and couldn't remember why I went in or how to get out. One night, I stayed late to stock shelves. Volunteered. I needed to know. The store was empty by 11 p.m. Just me and the stock boy Andrew, who kept his earbuds in and avoided eye contact. I waited until he was in the warehouse, then walked slowly toward aisle 13. Every step made the lights overhead dim. One by one, the temperature dropped. My breath fogged. I stepped into the aisle. Everything looked the same: shelves, products, signs. I walked slowly, dragging my fingers across the shelf. Then I heard it, not over the intercom, directly in the air. "Keepin' the house fresh enough to blind God." I spun around. No one. "I'll be back in 5, Jenna, just mopping up." Dan's voice right behind me, a whisper. I ran, but the aisle kept going. I ran past rows of bleach, pine sol, and rubber gloves. The aisle stretched longer than it ever had. I should have reached the end in 20 steps. I passed 50, 60. My legs burned. The lights above flickered faster, rhythmically. I looked behind me. Nothing. But I wasn't alone. Shelves began shifting, sliding open like drawers. Faces pressed through the gaps, silent, distorted. Mrs. Linden, Dan, others I didn't know, all mouthing words I couldn't hear. Eyes blank, skin pale. They weren't trapped. They were waiting. My feet stopped moving. My body didn't respond. Then the intercom blared loud and clear. "Clean up in aisle 13. Repeat, clean up in aisle 13. Only there was no spill. The lights above me went out. Darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing behind the customer service desk. Morning. My clothes were clean. No one said a word about the night before. My schedule still said day shift, but something was wrong. My name tag was different. Instead of Jenna, it read Echo Assistant. That morning, a woman entered the store asking about her missing husband. Said he came in last night for Lysol. Never came home. Security footage? Same story. He walked into aisle 13, but he never walked out. And then the intercom crackled. "Hey babe, be home in 20. Want me to grab anything else?" Her knees buckled. She screamed. Management shut the audio off. They brought in a technician the next day, said the intercom had no stored audio, said it couldn't even record. The technician walked down aisle 13 to inspect the system. He never came back. 3 days later, his voice played over the speaker. "Audio looks fine to me. I don't know how long I've worked here now. Time feels strange. The store never closes. Even when it's empty, I'm still here, still smiling, still listening. And aisle 13, it's always calling." It's funny what you get used to. In my case, it was the low whir of shopping carts, the smell of industrial floor wax, and the blinding overhead lights that made everything look too clean to be real. I'd been working at the Walmart in Dunfield, Ohio for just over 6 months, running overnight restocks and keeping my head down. It was a good enough gig, quiet, with free coffee if you knew where to look. But the first thing anyone noticed walking into our store was the greeter. Mr. Grayson. He was always there, rain or snow, holidays or not. Same dark slacks, same faded blue vest, same yellow smiley face button pinned crookedly over his heart. He stood just inside the sliding doors, hands folded behind his back, offering a polite nod and a warm welcome to Walmart to every single customer. His voice never wavered, never tired. "Morning, Isaiah," he'd say when I arrived for my shift. "Evening, Mr. Grayson," I'd reply, trying not to shiver. The man gave me the creeps, but no one ever talked bad about him. He was part of the store, like the security cameras or the price scanners. Permanent. On paper, he'd been working there since 1998, but no one could recall a time before him. At first, I didn't think much of it. He was just odd. His movements were stiff, like someone trying too hard to seem natural. He never blinked, not once. I watched him during slow hours just to be sure. He never used the break room, never went to the restroom. His shift never ended. "Does he even clock out?" I asked Melissa, one of the older cashiers. She frowned. "Mr. Grayson? Honey, he's always here. Been that way since I started 10 years ago. I just figured corporate liked having someone dependable." One night I checked the system. We all had employee profiles. I found his. Name, Richard Grayson. Position, entry greeter. Start date, 08/17/98. Last clock out, null. Status, active assigned door, main east. I scrolled further. Emergency contact, NEN, medical info, NA. Address on file, 000 unknown. My stomach tightened. The next day, I asked Sharon, our floor manager, about it. "Don't worry about Mr. Grayson," she said sharply, her usual sarcasm gone. "He's harmless. Just let him be." She said it like she was afraid. Then came the incident. A teenager thought it'd be funny to live stream himself taunting Mr. Grayson, called him a store zombie. Got up in his face with his phone, dancing, laughing. Grayson didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at him. The kid laughed, said, "You're creepy as hell, old man." The video ends there. He never made it home. His mom came in the next day, frantic. Security footage showed him entering the store. Then, static. A full 30 seconds of it. When the feed came back, the teen was gone. Police were called. They searched the store, every aisle. Nothing. When they questioned Grayson, he just smiled and said, "Welcome to Walmart." That week, employees started quitting. A janitor found a folded Walmart vest stuffed inside the ceiling tiles of the men's restroom, torn with something dark on the collar. Sharon locked herself in the office more often. Then Randy from loss prevention vanished. The footage? More static. Same glitch. Always at the entrance. Always near Grayson. I decided I had to know. One night I stayed after my shift, pretended to leave, then circled back and hid in the gardening section with a clear view of the front doors. Midnight came, then 2 a.m. Grayson was still there. No restroom breaks, no coffee. Just standing. At 3:33 a.m. he moved, not walked, glided. He turned slowly to face the empty aisles and whispered something I couldn't hear. The lights overhead flickered. The doors opened without anyone walking in, and someone walked out. A woman, pale, dressed in early 2000s clothes, confused, hollow-eyed. She shuffled into the parking lot like a sleepwalker. Then another and another. Old employees, ones we'd lost track of, people who'd disappeared in the store. They were returning, but they weren't right. Then Grayson turned, looked directly at me. "Back so soon, Isaiah?" I froze. My name never came up. Not once. I hadn't moved. He smiled wider than I thought humanly possible. You were always meant to greet. I ran out the emergency exit into the rain. I didn't stop until I reached my apartment. Quit the next day, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. So I went back to say goodbye. The store was under renovation, new floors, updated signs, but Grayson was still there. Same vest, same spot. He turned to me. "Morning, Isaiah. Welcome to Walmart." I felt my body go cold, like I'd never left. I backed away, turned to leave, but a customer walked in, a young man, confused, lost. He turned to me. "Excuse me, sir, where's the restroom?" I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't speak. Instead, I smiled and said, "Welcome to Walmart." We signed up for Walmart Plus because my daughter thought it was cool that we could get groceries without leaving the car. Living on the edge of the suburbs in Plain Hollow, Ohio, meant not many places delivered past 10 p.m. But Walmart's new 24-hour curbside pickup promised convenience any time of day or night. I should have known something was off when the first delivery came at 3:33 a.m. I was half asleep when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I looked outside. A white Walmart van sat in our driveway, engine idling. No one had ordered anything. My wife Heather was asleep. Our daughter Lily too. I figured it was a mistake. I slipped on my hoodie and stepped out. The air was sharp and cold. The van's lights flicked off. A man in a vest stepped out and placed a blue plastic tote by our door. He didn't look at me, just turned, climbed back in, and drove off. The box had our name on it, but the label was faded, old. Inside, a pink baby blanket, a pacifier, and a rattle. The blanket had Lily's name embroidered on it, in a font we'd never used. That would have made sense if Lily was still a baby. She was 10. Heather thought it was a nostalgic gift. "Maybe they're personalizing deliveries now," she joked, but she looked unnerved. That morning, I checked our Walmart account. No recent orders, nothing pending, no transactions. I called customer service, got put on hold for 20 minutes. Then the line cut. The next night, same time, 3:33 a.m. Same van, another tote. This time, it held a brown teddy bear with one eye missing and a framed photo of Heather in high school, one I'd never seen. She was standing beside a locker that had been burned, charred. The frame smelled like smoke. Heather didn't speak for a full minute. That was from the fire. My old school. That photo shouldn't exist. I never told anyone about that. We didn't sleep. I called Walmart headquarters. They laughed at me. "Sir, we don't do overnight deliveries after midnight, and we don't have any vans operating in Ohio at 3:33 a.m. I gave them the plate number. They said it didn't exist. That night, I waited. When the van pulled up, I was ready. I stepped outside. As I approached, the delivery driver turned. He had no face, just smooth, pale skin where eyes and mouth should have been. But he smiled. I felt it, behind my eyes and my jaw. A pressure. A thought that wasn't mine. "You forgot," but we didn't. I collapsed on the porch. The box was heavier that night. Inside, a VHS tape labeled Cole Family 2007. I didn't own a VCR, but the second I picked up the tape, our old living room TV flickered on. Static buzzing. On screen, me sitting on the couch with an infant in my lap. But Heather wasn't in the video. Lily wasn't either. It was a different child. A little boy. He called me Dad. Heather screamed when she saw it, ran to the bathroom and vomited. "We made a choice," she whispered that night, curled up in bed. We buried it. The next delivery was a coffin. Small, child-sized, placed right at our doorstep with a typed card. "Final pickup scheduled. Do not miss it." I called the cops. They found nothing. Said there were no tire tracks, no video evidence from the neighbor's security cams. One officer asked if we were dealing with grief. We weren't grieving. We were remembering. I dug through our closet that morning and found an old lockbox. I hadn't seen it in years. Inside was a birth certificate. Name, Caleb Cole, born June 21st, 2007, died December 2nd, 2007. A child we never talk about, never visited, never spoke of. Lily had asked about the baby photo once. We lied, said it was her cousin, but now he was coming home. That night, Heather begged me not to answer the door. I told her we had to end it. I stood watch until 3:33 a.m. The van didn't stop at the curb this time. It pulled into our lawn, headlights off. The driver stepped out. This time he had a face, mine. He smiled. "Final pickup," he said, voice wet like something rotting. He reached for my arm. I didn't move. Couldn't. The grass beneath my feet curled around my toes like fingers. The sky overhead went black. No clouds, no stars, just void. Heather screamed from the window. Lily stood behind her, eyes wide with knowing. "We shouldn't have left him," she whispered. And just like that, the world blinked. Morning. The house is quiet. Too quiet. My keys are gone. My phone won't turn on. Heather won't speak. Lily's room is empty. Photos on the wall have changed. Where Lily once smiled in birthday hats and Halloween costumes, a boy stands in her place. Caleb. The deliveries have stopped. No more packages. No more van. Just a smiling boy at the breakfast table who calls me Dad and asks for chocolate milk. Heather kisses his forehead like she's always known him. I try to scream, but instead I smile. Morning, champ. And deep down, in a place I can't reach, I remember we did forget him. And Walmart never forgets a pickup. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let me know in the comment. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.